I'm doing. Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. Hope your day is going well on this beautiful Friday morning. Sorry, just tweaking my camera a little bit. How's everyone doing today? Love to see your comments. Today we are possibly trying something new. I'm going to have possibly two guest hosts on here. So we'll see how it goes. But we've got Amy Kraus. So, Amy is a motivational speaker, youth empowerment coach. I love what she does. I love what she stands for. It's so important to empower our youth, to help help them step into their potential, help them be their authentic self, and we'll talk more about that. Amy, how are you?
Hi, Kenny. Doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Now, I'm in Salt Lake. Where are you coming from?
So I'm in the Midwest. I'm in St. Louis, right in the
St.
middle of
Louis.
everything.
Awesome. Haven't been there yet. On the to-do list.
There you go. Put it on your to-do list.
I'll message you when I'm coming.
Absolutely.
So you're a motivational speaker. You're a youth empowerment coach. Tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into that field.
Well, I was in education for 20 years. So I taught anywhere from preschool on up until high school. So I ran the gamut. The last few years, I was doing one on one sessions with kids. And I was the go to in the school where those kids were just overwhelmed, frustrated, not sure how to handle being in the classroom. Those were the kids that always came to me. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was just an energy that was felt. But in essence, our classrooms and our schools are very overwhelmed, especially now. So I knew about 2.5 years ago that there was more that I wanted to do outside of the classroom, but still be connected with kids. I have kids of my own. I'm a mom of two elementary level kiddos. And what I had seen in the schools was these kids coming through that were completely lost. They were trying so hard to be like everybody else or be like that social media star or be like something other than themselves. And no amount of the teacher saying, "You're doing great," it just wasn't enough. And I had not seen in 20 years any kind of program that could be put into the schools that allowed for empowerment. There were things such as character education and every once in a while, or maybe for a week on end, you would see something where they focused on how to be brave, how to be, empathetic, how to be all of the, go-to words, and then it kind of fell away. So I had to go through my own transformation a few years ago, my own self-discovery, and this is what came out of it: me wanting to make a bigger impact on kids because I was that kid. I was that kid who had no self confidence. I was that kid that wanted to be like everybody else because I didn't know that I didn't think being me was good enough. So I created my business. Kindness starts with me because it has to start with ourselves. We have to love ourselves before we can go out and love on everybody else. So I created the business, and now I go out and I speak to schools, school districts, youth programs, countrywide right now, and empowering them, telling them that it's okay to be themselves, that that's an amazing gift that you're giving the world. I also coach small groups, and I also create programs that are ongoing throughout the school year to carry it through. So it's not just a one time thing. Schools can have ongoing empowerment, which involves small group sessions, um, sessions for parents, sessions for the staff that allow them to have a safe space to say, you know what, I'm struggling right now. I'm not sure what kind of mindfulness work I can do. We don't have enough of that in our schools. So I've created a program for that as well. So yeah, so I'm on a roll. Lots going on.
That is awesome. And we've got Sonia on with us as well, so we're going to bring her in too, and then we'll come back to you.
Hey,
Hi,
How are you?
Sonia.
Is it Sonia or Sonia, or how do we?
as long as you don't call me Sanja.
Don't call me late for dinner. Got
Right.
it. So awesome. So thank you for joining us, Sonia. I appreciate it. So you work with elementary kids as well, correct?
I do. And I usually do a lot of that through either volunteering or PTA work and things like that. I'm a pretty big advocate that in the public education, that parents will see from their children what they put into it themselves. If the parents are not involved with their child's education, the children are not going to care. And so I work with the PTA to try to bring enough creative programs and activities for the kids that will get them excited about wanting to be in school.
Awesome, because I know for myself and for my son as well, parent involvement is so huge in that schooling aspect. And Amy, you were just talking about this, of loving yourself, and that partly starts with the parents. If the kids see the parents, trying to be what social media wants them to be, then that's what they're going to mirror.
Absolutely.
And then if they have no interest in schooling, whatever that looks like for them, then their kids are going to have that. So, um, aside from like the activities and stuff like that, how do you help get the parents involved at home?
So when I do like for my school, I'm in the process of planning a really huge carnival for the spring, late spring. And so what my plan is and what I've seen successful in previous schools is to get the kids excited about it. If you get the kids excited about it and they want to participate, I'm going to have the kids make posters that are going to talk about the carnival, and then we'll hang them up all over the school, and we'll take some of them out into the community, and then they'll be going to McDonald's or one of the restaurants around, and they'll see their poster and it'll be like, I made that, and parents, and I don't do, when I do programs in the school, I don't do competitive programs. I don't have programs where the kids compete against each other for top prize. I may have, okay, well, the top 15 people will go in a drawing, and that way you don't have to be the top seller. We don't do those types of prizes. We do participatory prizes. And that could be something as simple as if the kid brings their permission slip back to participate, they get a small prize, whether they are active in the fundraiser or the activity or not. Just because they took time and the parent took time to sign it and let the kid bring it back, the kid gets a small reward. And when the parents start seeing that, then they start to realize that our voices matter. They're going to respect our decisions, and my kid's not going to be penalized because I don't have the money, or I don't have a job where I can go and take a fundraiser form in and sell it to all my coworkers because my job doesn't allow that. So how's my kid supposed to compete with a parent that is allowed to do that? And in a school like the school that I'm in, that's such low income, I look for fundraising opportunities and things for the kids to do that don't cost $25 and $35. I look for community partners that will help offset some of the cost and get the community involved. And we're just getting our PTA up and running, that because it hasn't been active in several years. So we're just getting restarted again. And so it's been kind of an uphill. And I'm just really trying to get our school and our face out there, because we don't want the kids to feel like because they're in a lower income school that they're less than. I want each of those kids to know that they're just as important and they're just as productive and can be just as successful as any other kid in a charter school or a private school or any other school, because there's that stigma that if they're not in a charter school or a private school, that they don't have money, they're not as good as, their parents can't afford to give them the best. And that's not the case at all.
Awesome. I want to go back to that in a minute, but I want to ask Amy, when you go and speak to different schools around the country and whatnot, do you speak like school assemblies where it's just mostly the kids, or do you speak where the parents are involved?
So I do both, actually. So I will typically go in and talk to the school. I usually will do a younger, so the younger kiddos, because I put it in a format that the younger ones can understand, and then your middle school and older kids. And then I offer to come in and talk to the parents and really just have a conversation with them. Like, what are you struggling with? How can we help you? How can we connect as school, student, and family? Because that is so critical to these kids staying in school and being an active participant in school. Those three parts, if you don't have the family involvement, if you don't have the school being willing to say, we're here for you, what do you need from us? Those kids are going to really, really struggle. I've worked in schools that have had every single dollar under the sun. The kids are walking around in brand new shoes and all that. And I've worked in schools that have had absolutely nothing. And the biggest thing that I could see with consistency was the involvement with the parents and the kids really taking on roles in this school that they felt important. They felt successful. I loved what you're doing, Sonia, as far as putting them in a leadership role. That's a huge way to empower our kids, is to really put them in a space where they can go, look what I did. I did that, Mom. I did that, Dad. We have kids that come from all kinds of different family backgrounds. My kids have a two-parent home, two homes. I've seen kids that don't know where they're going to sleep that night. And it's absolutely heartbreaking if we can transfer it to a space of looking at where they can be successful. And every kid's going to be different. Some kids excel at sports. Some kids excel at school. Some kids excel at music. So let's make that important in the schools. I've seen school programs where they don't have a music program, or they focus completely on sports. Well, not every kid's a sports kid. In my household, I have one that would do art and one that does sports. There's no art program in my kid's school. So I went to the PTA, being that I'm on the PTA, and said, you know what? We need to do better. We need to bring in an art program, whether it's after school, as an elective, whatever it is. Next year, they're starting with an after-school art program. But you have to be involved as a parent. You have to go in and say, this isn't working for my child. Advocate for your child. So I do work with parents on small group sessions or one-on-one. I'll go into the schools and I'll do an evening workshop with the parents, just to give them tools that they can use to help build self-confidence in their kids, but build self-confidence in themselves too. Because as parents, sometimes we're like, I don't know what I'm doing. My kids didn't come with a manual. So sometimes we just need somebody else to say, oh, I never really thought about that. But it's a collaborative effort between the schools, the kids, the parents. That's the only way that it's going to work. That's the only way it's going to be successful for our kids to continue on in education.
I love that. It really is a collaborative effort, and it is a community. It's not just home and school. Because my son homeschools right now, but before he was in a normal public school, and we'd go to the grocery store and see the teachers there, or walking down the street, and it's like, oh, hey, Sally, whatever their name is, whatever, and it's a community. I know where some of the friends live. I know where some of the teachers live, kind of thing. So it's puts a different perspective on it than just teacher. And it puts that community involvement, if you allow it and through the proper channels, to be more. I'm more involved or whatever on different aspects rather than just student teacher or student and co-student, whatever.
Right.
And then like what Sonia was saying, I remember walking down elementary with my parents going, Dad, I made that poster. And it was like I was the Da Vinci. I thought I was Da Vinci. But and they made me feel like Da Vinci. They made me feel like that. The teachers did too and stuff.
Exactly.
So I love how you guys pointed that out. Um, Question I have, and whoever, how do you get them involved and stuff and personalize it and make everyone step into their power without everyone has a participation award? And Sonia, you kind of touched on that in the top 15 or whatever, but personally, I don't agree with everyone gets a participation award or everyone wins because they were there. If you lose, you lose in a good
Well,
sport manner.
that's
But
why our participation award is more for the parents, because the parents need to know what's going on. And basically, all that little pencil or whatever does is let the kid know, yes, I took it home to my mom. Yes, my mom saw it. And here's proof my mom saw it because she signed it. That's all that participation is to let parents know what we're doing. As far as other participation goes, we kind of do it by grade level. So if, we'll do like whichever grade level does the best will get a pizza party, or whichever grade level does second best will get an ice cream party, and whichever grade level does third best will get a popcorn party. And that way they're not competing one on one, but they're kind of supporting each other per their classroom. In our particular school, we've got 2 classrooms, I think, in every grade level. So it's like there's anywhere from, I don't know, 40 to 60 kids that are coming together to support one another and support each other and work as a team against another 40 or 60 kids. And it's not every man for himself. Because I feel like if we do every man for himself, the way that the world is now, where everybody's, oh, that's not fair, we're kind of still giving them that sense of, I can do better than this person and it's okay. My class did better than your class and that's okay. Or, that kind of thing. But they're still learning that, okay, my class didn't do as good as your class, but my class is still a good class. And so we can support you in your win, but we're still a little bit jealous. And that way I feel like we don't have as many. I don't feel like the kids are going to come to fisticuffs at recess because Johnny's saying that Stevie isn't as good as he is, because Johnny's mom owns a big business and Johnny's mom was able to help him get $1,000 in sales, and little Stevie only sold 3 things, one to his mom, one to his dad, and one to his grandma. They still did all they could do. They each gave their 100%, and that's good enough. I don't want the kids to feel like I'm better than you because my mom can do better. They could both be second graders, and as a whole of the second grade, Johnny's mom helped the second grade win, but it was a collaborative effort. And Johnny's 100% and Stevie's 100%, they were both 100% of what they could do.
Yeah, it's more about effort. It's about the effort as a whole rather than the final result. In essence, I talk a lot about that with my own kids, as far as grades and things like that. I'll say, are you putting in your best effort? Is that your best effort? I'm not worried about what the final grade is. Did you put in your best effort? Did you study? Did you sit down and do it? Yes, check, check. Okay, then I'm not worried about the final grade. Doesn't mean that I don't want my kids failing every single class, but they're putting in the effort that they are capable of putting in. That's where that comes from. It's that capability, and every kid's going to be different. My son is completely different in his capability than his twin sister. Do I know that they can do it? Yes, I know that they can do it. And I will stand by the fact that they have put in their best effort that they are capable of at their developmental level to do their best job. So I think when we look at the effort as compared to the final result, then our kids are like, oh yeah, I did put in my best effort. I tried my hardest. It may be different than what Johnny did, but I did do my best. And that makes them feel like they could climb a mountain, and they're going to want to try harder for the next thing that comes along, whatever that may be, if it's school, outside of school, or whatever.
I love that. Yeah. You know, I'm a believer that you can use what Johnny has as a goal. You know, okay, I want to go get that, but don't compare yourself to what Johnny has. If you're doing better than you yesterday, then you're doing great. You know, and
Absolutely.
if Johnny's doing better than Johnny did yesterday, then he's on the right track too. And so I love that, and it's so easy, especially for kids nowadays, like was mentioned with social media and everything, to try and have to fit in and be who others think they need to be and stuff, and that's just not the case. I mean, if their goals align with some of those things, okay, then go for those goals. But if they want those goals, if those are the proper goals for them, in alignment with them and who they are, and not because so and so on Instagram said this.
Right, right. And that's hard. That's hard at especially at an elementary level when they're so berated with it, when it's so like you go to school and your kid goes talking to a friend and they go, "Oh, did you see the latest whatever TikTok or whatever it is?" Um, and they're like, "Well, no." Like, it's hard because they're trying to. They want to have those friends, and they want to be part of the cool group. I think we all wanted to be like that when we were at that age.
I think
And
we
one of
still
the
do.
things, yeah, the one thing that I tell every group of children that I talk to is not everybody's going to be your friend. And that's okay. Because A, they're missing out on somebody that's amazing, but they just aren't your person. They aren't your friend. You'll make other friends. You'll make friends. You'll change friends. It's kind of an ebb and flow. And that's drawing on my own. I draw a lot of on my own experiences in elementary and middle school, um, and just share that they're not alone in having these feelings of I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough. Um, the kids are having that. Kids are having that every single day, and it's scary. The suicide rate has gone up tremendously, tremendously. You've probably seen it just in the past few weeks. There's been kids under the age of 12 that have committed suicide. I mean, our kids are hurting right now. It didn't help with COVID, but they're hurting really badly right now. And they just want to be heard. They just want somebody to stop and listen. And I know as a parent, sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's really hard to go take yourself off of the parent hamster wheel for a second because you've got to get dinner ready, you've got to make sure schoolwork is done, get this, that, and the other thing. But sometimes as parents, we just have to stop for a second and listen to them. Because if we don't, they're not going to talk to us anymore. They're not going to have those conversations and feel safe enough to have those conversations with us.
And I've worked in special education for several years with special needs students. And I think, especially since the onset of COVID, one of the things that is a driving force behind that nobody realizes is that kids have lost their sense of touch. Kids need to be able to touch one another. They need to be able to shake each other's hands and give each other a hug on the shoulders. And they need to be able to high five one another. And they need that sense of touch. And they're not getting that because everybody's so germophobic now that kids are losing that. Now it's you bump elbows. But like we taught kids before, don't cough in your hand because you shake hands. Well, now we're teaching them to cough in their elbow, but now they're bumping elbows. So, it's kind of a where does that sense of touch really belong? You don't want to advocate for bad touching and touching that is inappropriate, but they need that sense of I can, even if it's shoulder to shoulder, standing in line, or, everything is always, oh, don't touch Susie. Keep your hands and feet to yourself. Don't touch Johnny. You can't, and everything is driving them away from that touch. But kids need that. They need that experience to know that they're not alone. And as we drive that touch further and further away from their existence, they feel more isolated. What can I do? I am all by myself. I can't touch anything. I can't do anything. I'm not supposed to bother them. I'm not supposed to talk to them. I'm not supposed to. And we're teaching kids to isolate. And we have to overcome that barrier.
And that brings up another question. How do you help kids, excuse me, um, stay true to who they are, knowing that no matter what they do, somebody's not going to like it. Somebody's not going to approve it. You just talked about coughing in your hand, coughing in your elbow, coughing behind you. Now we can't do that. Now we can't do this. How do you help kids stay okay? This is still me. Be true to me, because somebody's gonna hate what I say or say I can't do that no matter what I do.
So I work with gratitude with kids, and I tell them, because I've worked with special needs kids, sometimes they have a hard time seeing the big picture of what gratitude is. And so I tell them, well, you're having a bad day. I understand that. But what about your day is good? Well, I don't have anything. I said, well, your hair is very pretty today. Well, that don't count. Well, why doesn't it count? It's part of you. It's part of who you are. Oh, look, you've got 10 fingers and 10 toes today. Susie Q or might not have 10 fingers and 10 toes, or may not be able to use them properly. And you can hold a pencil. Be grateful for the small things that you have. I used to tell people, learn to love yourself, even if it's one toe at a time. Look down at your little toe and say, oh, it's not, I actually have a toenail today. That's good. My toenail usually doesn't grow. I can be grateful for that today. Even if it's one toe at a time that you can build on for them to learn to love themselves. And if you teach them to start loving the little inconsistencies about themselves, like their toe is funny, but hey, they've got it, and it helps them keep their balance, and it this, that, and the other, and tell them some of the good things about that little toe that they don't like, and start teaching them to love themselves one inconsistency at a time. I think that kids will blossom, and that will spread.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I do a lot of the same things. So for me, those self affirmations is huge for the kids. Putting those I am statements. I had a school that I talked about putting I am statements, not a negative after the I am, but I had the kids on a piece of paper write down all the positive, all the negatives that they saw in themselves. Then I had them rip it and only keep the positive stuff. And they had to pick one of those positive words and make it an I am statement. They took those on big pieces of paper and they put them all over their school. So when those kids walked down the hall, they saw that I am statement and they were like, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I am strong. I am brave. It starts to stick in their head when they hear it consistently. If they're constantly hearing, why did you do that? I can't believe that. That was so stupid. But guess what? As parents and adults, how many times do we stand and look in the mirror and go, oh my gosh, I'm so fat in that dress? Or I can't believe my hair is a mess. When kids are hearing that negativity, either at home or in school, they start to believe that about themselves. Whereas if we flip the script and start inputting positive words, or we take one step at a time and say, wow, my hair looks great today. Wow, I really worked really hard on my homework last night. Those little steps, when they start to consistently, and that's the big thing, is consistently saying those things, we start to consistently believe those things. And as adults, it's even harder for us too at times to believe those things. But how were we conditioned? How were we conditioned as a child? Were we conditioned not to look at ourselves in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm really beautiful today? I wasn't conditioned to do that. There's no, if I tell myself I'm beautiful, then I'm being what? I'm being, conceited, or no, we're beautiful. And I talk a lot about uniqueness with the kids. Every single one of them is unique, just like adults. Every single one of us is unique. What makes us unique? Instead of what makes us like everybody else, what makes us unique about ourselves? If you were to look at my house right now, it looks like a complete art school blew up because my child does art and I just let him do it. I don't pick out, oh, well, that's a mess. I can't believe you did that. Clean. I don't, because that's what makes him unique, is just being creative and being, that's what makes him him. He's a mess. He's a hot mess. But I wouldn't want to have him any other way. I would never tell him that, but that's his creative self. And when we embrace the individuality of each child and the parents look at that as a positive as opposed to a negative, I've heard parents go before, why can't you just be like everybody else? Or why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like, no, why can't they just be like themselves? So it's definitely a learning curve for some people, adults and kids alike. But a lot of it has to do with the language that we put out there. It really does. Because when we're using that positive language for ourselves, that self love, then it's going to amplify out to the kids that we work with, the kids in our household. And then that's going to amplify out into the world. That's why my business is called Kindness Starts With Me, because you have to start with yourself before you can amplify it out.
So I had an experience when I was about 6 or 7 where I overheard my dad on the phone. And what I remember hearing, because memory is just a story that you tell yourself over and over again. So the way I remember hearing it was what my dad saying, I don't know what I did so bad that I had to have a daughter for my first child. And that stuck with me for 45 years. I lived for 45 years believing that I was less than because my dad had a daughter for oldest child instead of a son. And I don't want other kids to grow up feeling that way. I grew up, I was the oldest and I had 3 brothers. My dad never let my mom wear makeup, so I never learned to wear makeup. Then when I got in high school and I started trying to experiment with makeup, it was a chore for me. It was really a chore for me. And it wasn't authentic for me because it just wasn't something I was used to. And so now I tell people and I embrace the no makeup. And I'm like, look, if my face is good enough for my God, it's good enough for you. And if you don't like it, then, you don't look, go away, go someplace else. But it took me 45 years to be strong enough to be able to do that. And I'm trying really hard to teach my grandchildren and other kids in the school that I see and communicate with, that be yourself, be your authentic self, and you don't have to be like the magazine pictures, and you don't have to be like the TikTok videos, and you don't have to dance as good as them, and you don't have to do all those things, because social media really has, I mean, these things have been around all our lives. The peer pressure and the kids putting each other down, and it's been around. But in the advent of the social media, it's amplified, and in a lot of ways it's amplified the negativity. And I believe that we need to amplify the positivity and get more of this positive stuff out there and let kids know you can be your authentic self. That doesn't mean that you have to uphold any standards but the standards between you and your parents, because you're a minor and your parents are still responsible for you, and the person that you pray to. So, be true to your faith, be true to your family, and be true to yourself. But you've got to put yourself in there. And a lot of kids don't believe that they can do that, or they don't know how to do that.
I love that. What's something? I'm not a teacher. I'm not a educator or anything. What's something like me or other in the community can do to help with promoting positivity, help with things like that, and sharing messages that you are trying to share?
Find something every day that your kid does, no matter how simple it is, and let them know that you're proud of them for that. Like she said, even if it's just they worked really hard on their homework and they got their homework done. Maybe they got their homework done 5 minutes faster than they got it done yesterday. Praise something about your kid every day.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say give yourself a little bit of positive love too. Because when you start giving yourself the positive love, your kids are going to see that. You're modeling for them what they're going to start seeing in themselves. And I would say, too, when you start focusing on the what's going right in your world, they're going to start focusing on what's going great in their world too. Because a lot of times my kids will come home from school. I'm like, oh, I used to say, how was your day? And they go, fine, good, the traditional. Now I say, what went great at school today? And they'll go, oh, well, Susie did this and we did this. I get a whole, like book full of stuff. But if we as adults can start shifting the way the mindset work that we do, and maybe it's just something as simple as you sit with your little ones while they do their homework, not doing their homework for them, but you're just physically present. So you're talking about that physical, that need. I'll sit next to my kids while they're doing their homework. Does it mean that I don't get dinner started right away? Yeah, probably. But that's okay because I'm physically being there. I'm present. Being present is huge for our kids because, especially in this world where our kids are maybe have multiple homes that they're being bounced back and forth with, or you've got multiple kids in the household, or you've got the older kid taking care of the younger kids. Our kids are so inundated with responsibilities, which is great because it does teach them leadership, but sometimes that becomes a little overwhelming for them. They just want to be a kid. They just want you as their parent. They just want you, whether it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you lay with them as they're reading at the end of the night, whatever that looks like. And I know I have parents all the time go, well, I work a full-time job, my husband works a full-time job, we're trying to just make ends. I get it. I am a single parent raising two kids by myself from the time they were born. I get it. It's not easy. But when you start putting it into consistent time frame, whether it's right after school, right before they go to bed, you read a book with them, you play a game. My daughter needed that connection this past year. She's 10. She needed that connection with me because I had been so focused on work, 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 work. I was losing connection with my daughter. And there was a lot of like, we were butting heads because we're very similar, we're very strong headed ladies. um, so I have started every night, we have game night. It's just her and I. We play a board game, we play cards, something for 20 minutes before she goes and reads her book for the night. That's it. That's all she needed. All she needed. She'll say, Mommy, can we do cards? Can we play this? Absolutely. I'll close my laptop. And that's her and our time to connect. It has made our relationship just grow immensely. There is not this as much as there is just silliness, having fun. And I think it's really critical. I think sometimes as parents we forget that. So just taking that time, really being present is really super important.
I think time is the greatest commodity that we have that we can give our kids.
Absolutely.
Time is not promised. None of us have a timer in front of us that we know our absolute final time, but we know it's out there. And when at the end of the day, when everything's said and done, the time that we give our kids is what they're going to remember most. That is the single best commodity that we can give our kids. And there's no dollar value that can come to that. I mean, I saw a video. I don't remember which guy it was. There's so many of them out there now that do these positivity videos. But one of them, the little girl asked her daddy, how much do you make an hour? And daddy tells her, that's so inappropriate. Why would you ask that? And she said, I was just curious. So he finally goes to her and tells her, and he finally tells her, and she says, can I borrow $20? He tells her he makes $25 an hour. She says, "Can I borrow $20?" And then he gets mad at her because she asked to borrow money, and it's selfish and inconsiderate. And later, his wife, after she leaves the table and he sends her to her room for asking for $20, his wife is like, she just wants you. She just needs you. So he goes to her room and he gives her the $20, and she goes and gets her piggy bank and pulls the $5 out of her piggy bank and hands him the $25. And she said, "Can I buy an hour of your time?"
Yeah, it's and and however that fits for you. I've found, like you say, sitting with your child doing homework or whatever. When my son's doing homework, sometimes I'll grab a toy that's on the table or a stuffed animal he'll have nearby, and I'll pretend the little stuffed doggy is trying to help him figure out the homework, or I'll mimic some of the Minecraft characters that he's got and stuff, and I'll just and whatever that time looks like for you, it doesn't have to be a fully dedicated hour block every time. It could be 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. And I often have my son come help me do something with dinner. Can you do this? You're in charge of this, or working on the car, or shoveling snow, or whatever. But it's so important with that. And I love that story that you shared, Sonia. And then Amy, you made me think of another question. Not question, but example you talked about earlier of changing the language that you use. Excuse me. And you use the example just now of people that say, "Oh, I work full time and I have this and I have that." What language are you using there? Try shifting it. I get to work full time because I do. I get to do this and this and this. Just small little tweaks
Yeah, exactly.
over.
I like to use the word I create or I choose. I choose to get up and be an amazing parent for the day. I get to get up and take my kids to school every day and pick them up every day from school. For me, that's huge. But those little words like that, and I often remind people in my inner circle. They go, "Oh, well, I have to." I said, "Excuse me." I get to. I choose to. I create. What are you creating for the day? Make an intention for the day of I'm creating consistency. I'm creating empowerment, or whatever that is. And you can do that with your kids too. At the beginning of the day, before they go off to school, if they're homeschooling, whatever, you can say, "Well, what are you creating for the day?" And oftentimes, my daughter will go, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you want the day to be like? How are you going to walk into school? Are you going to walk in dragging your backpack behind you?" I go, "Well, I'm creating myself to be organized." Great, perfect. That sticks with her throughout the day, and that's her goal, to work towards being organized. Um, I create myself to be an amazing friend. Great. You're going to walk into school and you're going to be a great friend to the people you come across. But yeah, it really is a language shift. I choose to, I get to, I create. That's a big one for me.
And I think one of the biggest shifts we can do for our kids is the money mindset. There's so many times that I'll go through the store and I'll hear a parent say, "We can't afford that. No, we can't afford that. No, we can't afford that." I grew up with that too. But the way that I approach things that my kids are asking for in the store is, "You know what? Before we left the house, I asked you if there was anything you could think of that you needed to get from the store today, and you said you needed this, this, and this. So we've got that, that, and that in the buggy. But this isn't something that you put on your list. So we chose not to put that in the budget for today because these were your choices and these are the items that you got. So maybe next time we come to the store and we get ready to make our list, maybe you can remember to put this on your list." And it's not that I can't afford something. I just say more, you know, or if it's something, I'll say, "You know what? I choose not to pay $25 for that toy. If that toy goes on sale for $10, I think that would be a reasonable price. But I don't think $25 is reasonable for this when A, you might lose it, B, you didn't clean your room this week, so I don't think you earned $25, or C, whatever that looks like." If we tell people that we're making choice, tell our kids we're choosing not to purchase something for a reason, rather than telling them that, oh, we can't afford that. We, what do you think? Money grows on trees. Am I made of money? All of those negative connotations that kids hear day in and day out about money. Some of us, it sticks with them. It took me 45 years to realize that money wasn't the root of all evil. Bad people are the root of all evil. Some of them just have money that they do bad things with. It's not the money that's evil, it's the person. And I think that we need to teach our kids not just about money, but about themselves, about their appearance, about their hobbies, their likes, their dislikes. I'm a 50-year-old woman that collects unicorns like 12-year-olds, and I'm okay with that. That's my thing. That they bring me joy, they bring me happiness. I do choose to buy more realistic, more practical ones nowadays than just getting stuffies and toys. I look for salt and pepper shakers and different things, that practical things I can use, cups and dinnerware and clothes and jewelry and things that I can use that is practical. But I still love to collect them. I still love to see them. I still have them. And that's one of the ways that I connect with the kids in my school, is because they call me the unicorn lady, because I've always got unicorns on me, and it brings me kind of down to their level so they feel safe, because they know it's okay that they like unicorns, or that they like Minecraft, or that they like mermaids, or whatever, because I, as an adult, can show them it's okay to like what you like and to be yourself in doing it.
I love that. And it's so important, the words we use. Even if no one else hears it but ourselves, it does reflect and it does ripple on to others around that. Amy and Sonia, thank you so much for being here. It's been a great pleasure having you both on here, and thank you for the messages that you're sharing and trying to help others empower themselves and empower their children especially. And everyone for tuning in, thank you so much for being here. And remember to live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore the possibilities.